Thanks for watching the fishing reel again. So these are all my parts from my induction forge. What you can see is the new refrigerator coil I bought. I wanna upgrade this coil a little bit and bend myself a new one that fits the shape of a knife a little bit more than a round one. I'm not sure if the shape itself matters, but I think a flat blade fits better in something oval or long elongated than something round. I don't know if it has to do with heat what's it called, disturbance, no, you know how it's I don't know how the heat actually goes around in the knife, because obviously it's flat. If it's in a round thing, the long edges are closer to the coil than the flat edges. So, and I'm going to use a quarter. I'm going to upgrade this coil to a quarter. So this is the board, and this is probably how I'm going to lay it out. The pump obviously then will go in the water reservoir, but I'm going to want some space here, so once I'm done whatever I'm doing, I can coil up my hoses and then the wires, and I know maybe just velcro them on the board and have it all together as one unit. I think this here is probably the layout the way I want it. So I'm gonna paint the board. I'm gonna do some modifications, and I'm gonna show you then what I'm gonna do to this here. So let me paint the board first, guys. Okay, the board is out. I just painted it, and I found some primer, so it's good. It's mold resistant, water resistant. It's white. It's probably exactly what you want for forging, something white. Anyways, I can still overpaint it with something different later. So this is I got ahead a little bit. Don't want to annoy you guys to death with doing 4 things like 4 times. So this is the way they actually want you to attach your coil, and then later on, your hose is going to be attached through here to the water hose for cooling. Since I want to upgrade this to 1/4 inch, as you can see, these screws here are actually really very small or short. Let's see if let me get one out of here. They are really tiny, so I want a thicker coil, so I need this a little bit larger here. And I have larger screws already, or longer screws. They are 3mm by 0.5 pitch. If you want, if you go to the local hardware store, it's really hard to find. And the samples they have on their shelves to screw them in, it doesn't even go that small. So 3mm by 0.5 pitch, and then they go right in here, or can go right in here. So I have way more clearance. I can add a washer if they're too long. It's not really a big deal. And also what I want to do is, since they are short and I want a thicker line, see these washers I can reuse on these little screws as well, and clamp the new larger line down. Or I got these clamps here, maybe I can modify those somehow, get them on and have a 1/4 inch hole here only. I don't know, maybe solder something on. Haven't really made up my mind yet, but what I know already is I don't like those little feet they give you. So they have 4 of these like post screws, I think they call it. Those are the stands this whole thing stands on, and then your coil is down here, and your water hoses, everything is down in this little space here. So what I'm doing is I'm taking them out. Just break the screw, take them out, and then I can take these out. I have 4 posts as legs. I take these 4 out, put them in, because they're much larger, which gives me more clearance than for the 1/4 inch line. And it's the same screws, the same diameter, so that'll all fit back together again. If I go that route, then I want these screws for longer for longer legs. So obviously they don't fit through here. I don't want to put a drill on because it might catch and destroy the platina. So what I did here is I have this like triangle file with those edges. It's not even round, and I just go in here. You can see I did 3 already, so I'm going in this far again, and I just go around in circles here, trying not to push too hard because it bites really good, very fast. It doesn't really take much. So this should do. So now this screw actually fits right through this hole, and then obviously I have to replace these posts to keep my clearance. So now I have this hose laying around here, just a clear hose, get it at a hardware store. I cut a piece off. I know my board is, I believe, 1/2 inch thick, so just leave some clearance here. So you have 4 of these longer screws with 4 of these like the rubber boots on, and they are your new legs, and gives you way more clearance than those shorter studs here. You can make them longer, make your feet longer, use longer screws, and then that gives me more clearance for these studs that we're gonna modify here. I took care of those 4 legs and those 4 studs, so the holes are larger, and I went back to the original very short screws here, because turns out the 1/4 inch cover with the longer studs, it wouldn't clamp with the longer screws because there's still too much space here. So I went back to those small screws that came with it, and the short studs I took out. Then I used the spacers for better contact. Now if you look at this is a refrigerator copper tubing. I thought this would be way easier to bend. I even went out of my garage and got these brake line benders that I bought this year to fix my brake lines, but they can only do so much. You can only reach so much. You can do a 90, you cannot do a full circle. I thought this would be way easier. Just take the coil, wrap it around a spray can or something. As it turns out, if you want to bend it by hand, or even with this brake line bender, you can do a 90, but if you want to bend it further, you got to do it by hand. And what's happening is the line on the inside is starting to collapse, and it's folding itself together, so then you don't have no flow, no water flow anymore. It restricts your water flow. Might as well just go with the original smaller one. So I used my pliers then and went in this way and really then forced it back out, which then tried to straighten out this coil again. So this is not my best work, but I tell you what, it's not pretty but rare. So I'm thinking maybe bendable copper tubing does the job. I thought this would be bendable. If I use the original one that came with it, I can actually take this and just bend it even really small radius, and it's not going to collapse on the inside. Maybe that's the secret to it. But for now, I can bend it back, and there's no damage to the line. It's not going to collapse. So, but for now, this will do. And if this works, I go back and go maybe with a bendable and redo this. So I have this is going to be the bottom, this is facing up, and the reason I did that is because if it's on the board and I heat something up, it goes through, you have it over the edge anyway, so there's no problem. But then once your board is in storage and you put it on a shelf, you want it to sit right. So if this is up the other way, it's always going to sit like that on resting on this coil. So that's why I rather want it up and down. And then the legs, gonna make this 3 more of these legs for the board with the longer screws. Maybe I'll make them a little bit longer, get some longer screws, maybe a 1/4 inch longer, because it doesn't really give me that much more clearance. And the board needs a second coat. The board has a 3rd coat of paint on now. Changed my plan with the legs. Instead of going with these screws, I go with something longer. No major difference in the diameter, because I don't want to, you know, ream this more out and potentially maybe crack it. So I can go from this size leg to that size leg, which also allows for more airflow on the bottom, keeping all the stuff cooler. So obviously, as you can see, the heating coil is pretty close to the solenoid here, so it'll come out like this, and in the end, longer leg. So the board is actually 3/4. I can have this 5/8 long, and this is 1 5/8, or actually it came out as 1 1/2. So then I'm gonna put these fittings on here, the 1/4 inch by 3/8 they call them. They have this like self-cutting ring in them, which then as you tighten it, it seals to the pipe. And this is a 5/8, the connector for the pump. They call this 1/2 inch, but if you measure the outside, those ribs here or shoulders, it comes out 5/8, which really nicely fit on this hose, which has a 5/8 inside diameter stainless steel hose clamps. Put them on first, tighten it. Now this shoulder goes all the way through, so there's no holes here. With these connectors, I'm not sure, since it's a thread, it's possible even the hose is on, the water finds its way through the whole thread and seeps out. Even though with the clamp, I'm hoping the clamp really just digs it into the rubber, and there's not a lot of pressure because one side is open. It can't really create pressure, it's really just a through flow. But if it happens, I'm using this product here. It's real tough. I use it on my air guns, air hoses, anything, any water connections, except solder obviously, but anything with threads, I use it. I'm not sure if you can read this. I'm gonna read this to you. Let's see here. Multi-purpose heavy-duty thread sealant. Contains Teflon, makes leak-proof, pressure-tight seal, non-hardening, lubricates, permits low torque, mega bend disassembly for temperatures from -200 Fahrenheit to +550 Fahrenheit. Pressure to 10,000 psi. Withstands expansion, contraction, vibration. Non-toxic. Contains no lead. Will not run or drip from joints. Wipes clean. So all this is true. So I'm using this for a long time already. It comes with this brush inside. It's one of these things. You probably would like something better, but it's just what it comes with. It's always, this is probably 10 years old already. You smear this on your threads, close the thread tight, first time, every time, and wipes clean. So I'm gonna try to get one of these connections together here. Let's see. Now this ring fell out. Let's try the other one. Got this other one here. And this is a 1/2 inch. The small one is a 1/2 inch. And the large one is an 11/16. And if you have to buy all these tools and things to build this, might as well just buy one that's already done at this point. So I put this on. Get this baby on. So the cut ring is in. Let's see if this works with this line. Yeah, this is not working on this line here. It's not cutting it. Okay, that's what they sold me at the hardware store for the 1/4-inch line, but obviously see I can rip this right off. So I'm gonna find a different solution for this. So anyways, let's assume this would have worked for now. Then you put your hose on, obviously get the clamp on first. So and with this system you got basically from the pump in your coil, and from the coil back in your water tank. So you have 3 connections. If you would use the original pump, you have 4 connections. From your water reservoir into the pump, from the pump into the coil, and then from the coil back in your water reservoir. So, and I'm thinking I'm getting more water flow with this one. Okay, let's see what we can do with this connection here. So it turns out, as I was using the other one, that actually worked. So the first one I used, it didn't have this cut ring in it. That goes in here. Your nut goes in first. The cut ring goes on top. You can see it here better. Cut ring. Come on, come back. Here it is. Then you put this on, and as you tighten it, it cuts into the cover and compresses and makes a tight seal. So it turns out some choker was originally sealed. Original seal is really just the wrapper around with the size and the barcode. Some choker probably just took it out, messed up his, put this back in the shelf. So I just went there, I grabbed the next one, and there was one missing as well. So, you know, if you go to the hardware store, buy single pieces that everybody has access to, nuts and bolts and threads, you name it. Threads and bolts I learned already. If you check one nut, you fit it on your thread and it fits, and you grab 10, there's 1 or 2 in there that's the wrong size, because customers don't know where they got theirs from what tray, and they just throw it back in, or I don't know what. Anyways, so make sure your pieces are complete and all the threads are the same and good. So now I got this one on already, so we go from there. At this point we're trying to get the converter figured out. So you gotta know how to make your connections so you don't fry your forge or your converter. Your converter comes with no instructions, but it says here, the first one here, it says AC, it says L, N, and this is the symbol for ground. So this is your live wire, this is your neutral, and this is your ground. So this is a black, white, and then this is green. And here I have 3 options. I can attach like 3 devices. So this is your DC out, 3 negatives and 3 positives. You can connect them any way you want. At least one is negative, one's positive. Here actually it states ADJ, adjust, a little arrow, or adjust voltage. So there's this little teeny tiny screw here. You can actually fine tune your voltage. So yeah, let's just open this up, open your screws. on this side here, that's where your 9 volt goes in, AC 110. It comes with a converter to 9 volt. It goes in here. This is digital display. And here, this is where your 12 volt, or in my case, a 24 volt connection goes in. There's a little positive sign here and a little negative sign here. So, how you know what's black and white? I would suggest using a GFCI ground fault circuit interrupter, because you're playing with water. If a line breaks and things get wet, you probably want that. So on this side is white or neutral. This is in your outlet. You probably can't see that. You can pull it out. But so it's white, neutral, and on this side is black, or the hot wire or the live wire, same thing. And the center obviously is ground. And you can tell here they're actually color coded. The black is the darker screw. Let's call it brass, and the white has this silver screw. So if you pull out your outlet and the black is here and the white is here, it's not gonna work. You need this wired the right way. So from your outlet, black, white, and ground. And it doesn't matter on your plug then. If you think about it, I mean, how do I know on my plug that this is white and this is black if they are the same size? So some plugs come with the same size of slots here. The one I have, it's because your ground is always going to be here. So this is written in stone what that's going to be, because you can't switch it around. So I have one here. This is an old extension wire which I cut off already for use in my garage on my heater cannon. So obviously we have a black, a white, and a green. And now on this side here, see they're both the same width. So technically you can put him in this way or the other way around, but the ground holds him in place. And then if you look at it, if this goes in like that, we have black, black, white, white, and then obviously ground is in the center. So I know this is wired correctly. This is very, very important for this machine, especially if it's 110 volts. Countries that have 220, it doesn't matter, because black and white both are hot. Countries that have 110, it does matter. They could have only one hot wire, and then actually in your panel, white and ground both go to ground. You can't short it out. It's just the way it is, because you only have one hot wire. And I have a little schematics here. You can pause this video with the schematics if you understand what this is about. And this is exactly what we just talked about. You kind of laid it out the same way as the converter. As the converter is here, so you got your 110 AC goes into a converter to DC. This is where you plug it in. This is the forge. This is the coil, and then the display, just like it sits here. You got your outlet 110 in to the converter. So here again you got your live, so black and neutral is white and ground is green. Black, white, green. And then you have I have 6 connections here, 3 negative, 3 positive for the 24 from the converter out into the forge. So the 3 left are positive, are negative. It's kind of funny, on the forge the negative is on the other side, so it's here. So in the positive coming out of the converter is going to the other side, so they cross over. It's going here. Make sure, and this is not, it's not like this goes here, so the right goes to the right and the left goes to the left. No, they cross over. It's just the way it is. We gotta deal with it. Okay, maybe like this, and then you can pause it there and take a look. You got it? Alright, so let me make these connections, and maybe I'm gonna kind of bolt them down through my newly made like screws and legs, and this one has some pre-made holes in here. Maybe screw this down, make the connections, and run the wires. So obviously we're gonna need 3 outlets, one for the forge, one for the converter, and then one for the pump. I decided to put a fuse on the converter because it doesn't come with any. I found other models that have a couple of fuses here. They're more expensive. I forgot how much more. I just bought one from the local hardware store. It's an insert you get for automotive, and that's rated up to 32 volts, 20 amp busman fuse. Goes in any will fit. We'll make sure it's 20 amps. And you know, I never in my life made a solder that actually works. This is just not one of my talents. So I just stripped this wire here, put them together, and then I put my shrink hose around. Heat her up. So there's not going to be a lot of stress on it while like pulling and pushing and vibrating and all that like it would be in a car. So I'm hoping this will do, and if not, I'm going to get some crimp connectors that I can put on. But for now, I'm hoping this will do, and I'm going to go ahead wiring this thing and screwing it down, and then showing it to you. I have the positive and negative DC connected already. As I said before, I got these 3. Let's get my big fat finger out of the way here. We got these 3 positive, 1, 2, 3, and then 3 negative, 1, 2, 3, and then it goes to ground, neutral, and black, which is your live wire. So I'm just gonna repeat it. So black is live, white is neutral, and this is ground. It goes in that order, and this is all your 3 negative DC volts, and this is your 3 positive DC volts. So I have this together here. The fuse is not in yet. It's all connected here, and I'm gonna just stable this down with like electrician staples that I can hammer in, and maybe make then sense of all this wiring. I don't like this to hang around and cross paths and that, and you pull and rip one out. This is that, and then I'm gonna put this plug here back together. I'll get a bucket. I'm gonna do the hose connections, and then we go from there. I put the hoses on the forge, and just their own weight. They're not even full yet with water, so you can see they really do a number on that. It's not stable enough, and it'll come loose and just work the platina. So that needs to be changed. Alright, I got this block on to actually stabilize the line. So this is really tight. As you can see, this is not affecting how this actually works anymore. Not how it works out, but it's not going to move anymore. But so how do we get this tight? The thing is, I can't get these cut rings off. Since they're obviously cut rings, they cut into the cover, so I can't take them off anymore, and just drill a couple of holes, slide the block on, and it wouldn't be sufficient anyways, because the 2 coil ends don't come out exactly in a straight 90-degree angle. So you kind of want to follow this here. So I made a 2-parter which allows for 2 things. So first of all, I marked my total length here. Then I marked where the pipes would come out and then I went down here, and actually I marked the pipe, or I traced the pipe left and right. So obviously the nut here is in the way, but they were kind of like this. So if you would drill in a different angle, this one angle and this one a different angle, 1/4 inch, you can't. So, but that allowed me then, I know I had to drill a hole here and a hole here. So I drilled a 5/16 hole here, which is larger than the 1/4, obviously. Then I drilled a pilot hole here. Pilot hole, woodworking. You need a larger drill to go through your top piece that you want to actually tie down to the smaller piece. Then you have a smaller drill going down here, which allows your screw to travel freely to the top piece, through the top piece, and then actually tighten it down to wherever you want to tighten it down. Otherwise it's going to catch thread here. By the time you get a thread in this part, the second part, doesn't matter, a forge, a frame, a door, it's going to actually create a gap till it catches thread, and then it catches thread and it just goes in and in and in, and the gap stays the way. So woodworking 101. So I cut this, I did my 5/16 hole here, 5/16 hole here. I did the pilot hole all the way through at this point, not the larger diameter, just the pilot hole. So I cut it off here, I cut it off there, need a pilot hole here and a pilot hole there to screw it on, and then I cut this out, which already makes the 5/16 smaller, the 5/16 diameter, which then later on can be sanded down a little bit if it's not tight enough. So, and then obviously you paint it. So then you screw it on, and as you actually drill in, since we know it's in an angle, I started kind of straight and then just force the drill in a different direction. Same here, just not as much. And then I had to actually sand this down the gap a little bit. I used my Dovedale saw, which is a really fine cut. It just wasn't enough, so I sanded this down a little bit to create more pressure. So this is really good, and this is really good. Here, this is not going to move anymore, and hopefully this will hold the weight of the hose. So that's how this was done. We're almost there already. Tools needed: screwdriver or drill bit. Obviously drill the pilot hole. You need this to get these babies on, or a flathead screwdriver. That's a 5/16 big screwdriver. Phillips head screwdriver. You need the 1/2 inch and the 11/16 for your connections here. A square to square it out. A knife to cut things. A saw to do your sawing things. A little screwdriver to adjust your what's it called, a conductor, not conductor, converter. I had to write this down. This one to actually remove the holes in here. Pliers, snips, not kind of really snips, but things to cut the insulation off your wire and take it off. A heat gun to put the heat shrinks on. Tape measure, hammer to hammer these things down for the wire. What else? A brush, water to clean your brush, paint to paint. A bucket is down here. You can see this yet, but this is where these hoses go. So if you have all these things, go ahead, do it. If you don't, if you add all this and this is all you build, just buy one that's assembled. Spend $300, $400, $500, get one. If you can do it yourself, I don't even know what all the small parts were. I think this was like $17. It was a 5-foot coil, and they came in at like $4.95 each. These connectors. I'm not sure if I have all the receipts still. This is $103, $79. Yeah, I think this is probably covering it well. I had this wire already, and the plug, so you should add this. And let's see if this actually is working for us after spending all this money and time on it. Alright, that's the first run. Everything is connected. I have this little gadget here so we can measure the temperature. The hose there is 55.6 degrees. The coil here is 58, 57, around. So the pump's not running yet. I'm going to plug the pump in, and then we see what temperature that actually does to the coil. So it's not very dramatic. We can see the pump is running. So now the coil should cool down right to the water temperature. Okay, it's going down. That's the water temperature. I get this out of the light here. Okay, let's plug it all back in. This will be the forge. So the fan comes on. And the display here shows there's no voltage coming in yet. I'm gonna plug the converter in. So now that will take a while, not a while, but a little bit. So you have to give it some time to build up actually a voltage. Let's see if I hit the start button. So we have here, as you can see on the display here, 48 volts, 48. 7 volts to see. Okay, now it's actually drawing 48 volts. And it's all 16 degrees Celsius. The water is going through. Let's put some metal in. See how fast it heats up, or if it actually heats at all. And I'm having this half-inch bolt here with some nuts on. So the temperature here shouldn't really change, but the temperature here should change really fast. Let's try this. Okay. It smells actually like hot metal already. And this is still 63 here. 60. 59, 145. Okay, then I switch it back on. We have to charge it a little bit longer so that the converter actually has enough power, enough juice. It's heating up pretty quick. We got eventually see, this is a Teflon ring I'm holding on to. I think you can see the water tank on the bottom, right? Let's try this. So 179. Alright, so I'd say it works. We might have a couple of bugs still, which we can work out. This is it. No, just the, ow! Okay, don't touch the top. Just keep the ring in your hands. It's really still hot. Let's check. Okay, that still burns. Ow! Dang it! 102 degrees, still burns hot. Now what's the coil here? 55.6, 7, 54. So that's the water. So that's really nice that it stays so cool. Maybe you can go in and touch it. This is how welders work, and TIG welders work, and all the other welders. It's like high amp but low voltage. You know, like a car battery. You can touch the two poles, positive and negative, don't get shot. But, you know, don't go on your outlet at home and put your fingers in. That'll hurt you. Alright, so I guess this will probably pretty much conclude how to assemble this. And you got the notes about how to collect it all. Here's it again. It's not really a big deal. Don't be afraid. You know, I had really problems figuring it all out because nothing comes with a manual. The induction doesn't come with a manual, and the converter doesn't come with a manual. You have no idea what you're doing, and you don't want to fry it because then you got to rebuy it just to try it again. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this wasn't boring for you guys at all. I try to keep it as short as I can. It probably could have been a little bit longer. Maybe it could have been a little bit shorter. Some of you guys probably know half the stuff I talked about. Some of you don't. I try to be thorough and not boring. You know, how to bolt these things down. You know, you have a screwdriver and a drill, a couple of screws, you know how this goes. There's problems with these fittings here. We talked about, And it's good I have this heat gun so I can actually show how it heats up. Not everybody has that. It's not that expensive on Amazon, for example. You don't have to have one, but it's good to know what temperature your metal is, or what you're actually doing at this point. As a woodworker, you don't need that. I just had one because of my motorcycle, and it has some these like screws with like Loctite on that have to be like torched to melt the glue but not overheating the aluminum. So I just bought one, which comes in handy now for this forge. And this pretty much concludes it. Thank you so much again for watching. Please subscribe and like. This is actually good motivation to do more videos like this. And around my car there's always some videos around, and I'm hoping with this forge I can do some comparison with like a map torch and the forge, and thicker metals, slimmer metals, knives, bolts, you name it. You can ask for things and I try to meld it on here and see comparisons, for example. And I think this is probably it. What do you guys think? You had enough of me? Alright, thanks for watching, and please subscribe, share and like. Goodbye. Fishing Reel out.